So are you all expecting?
Yeah.
Now you know if you came in this place, you are labeled by hell. They know who you are. Definitely, okay? You understand that the devil knows you're here, and because we're not afraid of him, Leonard Ravenhill said, "I want to be the most wanted man in hell." I like that. But the thing that is you can't be afraid of the devil. But I'm going to tell you some things, and this is such a surprise to me because I did these study guides. It took months to do all these study guides for the next 4.5 years. All over the world, everywhere I go, I teach the same things because I want to make disciples of all nations. So I want everybody on the same page before the move that's already begun. So forgive me if I forget any kind of technical things, and I think everything's covered, right? We're good. Because if I start to talk about other things, the anointing leaves me. And so I have to be really careful. If you notice, I everywhere I'm at, I just say thank you to the pastor and I get right into it. And I don't mean to be, but see, I don't mean to be that way. But see, the Holy Spirit, he trusts you. And so you have to stay in there with him. So like tonight, I did all these beautiful study guides and everything. And then he tells me, I want you to talk about holy fire tonight. And so, that's fine. But see, the thing that is you need holy fire, but you need to understand there's a lot of things in your arsenal that you were given. And, a lot of you don't even know that you're in a war when you became a Christian. And, so when you got saved, I mean, it's a wonderful thing. But, there's light and there's darkness, and you know all this. So there's a lot of things that happen. See, one of the things, if you don't know about what happened to me, I was a normal Christian, and everybody liked me. But when I came back from heaven, and I had this experience, and I met the Jesus face to face, I got born again. And I was an unbelieving believer, and now I'm a believing believer. And the person that I loved and saved me, and I was going to heaven, when I met him, I realized that up until that point, I would not die for him. I'm just being honest with you. I would fold because I was casual. I was a casual Christian. Paul called the Corinthians carnal, and they were flesh ruled. Their minds weren't renewed, and their body was telling them what to do. And so they were really spiritual, but he was saying, listen, you guys are crazy too. You guys are crazy. And, you need to start getting some order. And so he started teaching them all the precepts. There's a lot of good things. I mean, First Corinthians chapter 2 is one of my favorite chapters. It talks about the Spirit searching the deep things of God, and the mysteries of God are revealed through the Spirit, And Paul, like as learned as he was, he's the kind of guy that you would want as a professor. Like everybody wanted to sit under him. Like if you were going to be a Pharisee, which no one in this room wants to be, but, there was a time where that was the big deal. So, that's the big deal, And so but everybody wanted to listen to him because he was very learned. And he was being trained under Gamaliel, which was the head Pharisee. And so it was spoken of that Paul was being groomed. Saul was being groomed to lead that whole gang of vipers, So you can be the head viper. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Jesus came after them one day and said, "You brood of vipers, who's warned you of the coming wrath?" And he just loved. He loved to go after those guys because he hated religion. Amen. And he still does. He still hates religion. Amen. And see, religion is just man's way of doing things. And, look where that's got us. Okay, so how's that working for you? So, Paul said this. And just pretend like I'm looking at my Bible. I'm sorry, I've memorized this stuff. And I bring the Bible into everything. And if, no one in here would be bothered by that. But I study 15 hours a day. My wife will attest to it. We pray in tongues and we study, and I find myself approved of God. And I don't come here, like Paul said, I don't come to you with man's wisdom, enticing words of man's wisdom, but I come to you with the power and demonstration of the Holy Ghost. And that's what you need. So, you can stand here and I can teach you all the books of the Bible, but that's all you get. And, if you start quoting the books of the Bible, the devil, as he's coming at you, he's like, whoa, this is going to be easy. Because you're just quoting the books of the Bible. He knows the books of the Bible. Okay, but when you speak, you got fire coming out of your mouth, and you got the Holy Ghost all over you, and you start talking under the anointing, they're just going to go ahead and put their white flag up, and there's going to be a puff of smoke where they were standing. And I'm not kidding you. Because, but you have to understand something about what happened to me. I was a normal Christian. I had supernatural things happen. But I was not allowed to talk about what happened to me on that day. And I wasn't allowed to share it. And if I would start to share it, except for a very select people, the Spirit of God would get very grieved. So I went 23 years without talking about it. And I even worked in churches where I just did whatever they needed. And, Pastor Don here knows, one time I even got to teach Sunday school. No, I had been to heaven. Jesus was appearing to me, and I couldn't even tell. Here's Pastor Don, Christine, and they know that I was never asked to preach in the church, And so you have to understand that I was okay with that because it was about my relationship with God, and I wasn't released to talk about these things. Now, I mean it. If I would try to talk about it, I would get so grieved I'd start crying. They were so sacred to me. So it really threw me back when the Lord spoke to me and said, I want you to write a book about this. Because I didn't want to write a book about this, because I knew what kind of road that would take me on. And, everybody wants to sensationalize things. And they want to present it in a way where it's exciting and palatable, but at the same time, you can't lose that separateness, that holiness, that sacredness of something that God does for you. Come on.
Amen.
There's special things that God does for you, that they remain sacred, and that's where the power is.
Yeah.
Does anybody understand what I'm saying?
Amen.
Okay, so think about this. You think you want certain things, but I'm telling you, I've been on the other side. I've seen things. I've seen angels that I had to look away because they were so beautiful, and they were men, but they were so beautiful that they looked like women.
Wow.
Because the ugliest angel looks better than any woman, which is like that's crazy. So don't take that as an insult. I'm just saying that we look better in Christ than we do in our bodies. Our bodies are like these Halloween costumes we buy for $5 at the dollar store, and you look like a past president or something like that, and it's just like $5, and our bodies are really just a costume. But see, you might not understand what I'm telling you right now, so I'll just keep repeating it until I see that you've clicked over, because your body is not you.
Right. Amen.
Do you understand that?
Amen.
Your body is not you. Your body's fighting you all the time, but it doesn't even look like you. So I don't want to get into all that because I don't have the time to get into that tonight. But when I was over with Jesus, the thing that I saw is that I would die for him, that he was worth dying for. And I didn't have that revelation just by being born again. Because I always wondered I wanted everything the apostles walked in, but I didn't know what price they paid. And see, and they didn't either. Because they were fighting over who's going to sit at the right hand and left hand. And they were arguing over that. And they said, well, that's not for me. Jesus said, that's not for me to decide. That's for my Father. And he said, can you drink of the cup that I'm going to drink of it? And they all just without even thinking, said yes. And he said, well, you shall. But to sit at my right or my left is not up to me. Okay, so they're not even counting the cost of what they just said. No, they all died. They all drank that cup. But see, except for John, they couldn't kill him. But see, if you notice that Jesus said, they said, well, what about him? And they were pointing to John. He goes, well, what is it if he's still alive when I come back? And it's funny that on Patmos, he got to see Jesus come back.
Yes.
So Jesus didn't lie. What is it if he sees me come back? Come on now.
Wow.
These are the questions you should be asking, by the way. Not about UFOs and dinosaurs, but you should be asking. You should be asking why Jesus cursed the fig tree. You should be asking those questions. Those are the questions he wants you to ask.
There you go.
He wasn't in a bad mood that day. He wasn't thinking about fake Newtons. I mean, come on. Okay, so Paul, like I mentioned this morning, Paul is the one who was killing Christians or having them killed, and then because he's a Pharisee, he really couldn't kill anybody, so he just had the Roman government do it, and he had other people do it. But he had all the garments laid at his feet while Stephen was being stoned. Now Stephen worked at Denny's, he was just serving tables, but the power of God was on him. And there was notable miracles being performed at him, and God was like with him. And he wasn't an apostle or a prophet.
That's right.
Like when he showed up, they just said, "Can you take this? I need more coffee." You know, they didn't like say apostle this or a prophet this. He was nothing.
Right.
But it was everything.
Yeah.
He was a man of God.
Yes, amen.
And he was known in heaven because it says that when they were stoning him, he was dying. He said, "I see Jesus standing at the right hand of God." Not sitting, standing.
Yeah.
So he stood up to receive him
Yeah.
as a martyr.
Yes.
Okay, so what an honor.
Yes.
What an honor to have Jesus receive you. You see, so the things that you value should not be your life. It should be what he says about you. It should be that you're known by him, that you're known in heaven. And Paul was like, I want to be known by him. I want to be known of him. I want to be found in him.
Right.
And he was an apostle. But he said, we're at the end of the procession. We're the offscouring of the earth. You know, and so he was an apostle, and he was spent most of his time in jail with that office.
Yes, good.
All the prophets, they just disappeared. You know, they got a choice. You either shut up or you die. And they said, I can't. Jeremiah said, fire was in my bones. I couldn't shut up. Okay, so the word of God is active and living and sharper than a two-edged sword. It's working inside of you. And like I said, Jesus is, you know, you're not working the word. When I met him, he's a person. So I'm not working the word. He's working me. And he's working me over good. Even while I sleep, like last night, an angel of the Lord, after I came and spoke here, an angel of the Lord woke me up. I had slept maybe an hour or two. And he was standing right there by the bed, and I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. I just had to pray. Why? It wasn't me. It was because heaven had invaded my environment, my atmosphere, and then all of a sudden I've got to do what heaven's doing. Come on now.
Yes.
So when heaven comes into your life, when God comes into your life, things start to change, but it's because your perception changes. It's because you see things you didn't see before. And the things that bind you, you can hear the chains start to fall to the ground. You hear chains falling. They're breaking right now. They're breaking right now as I talk. And it's amazing. You don't have to give $1,000. You don't have to have me breathe on you. I'm not going to wave my jacket. I took my jacket off, so I'm not going to wave it. Okay, so my mode of operation is Jesus gets all the credit for your healing. He gets all the credit for the words that are spoken through my mouth because he is the one that's speaking to you.
Amen.
I was sent back. He said, it's not about you. If you go back for me, he said, you can't lose. He said, it's all extra credit. He said, but it's not about you. It's about the people I'm sending you to. And how I can change a whole generation by being obedient and just yielding to him. And how you can change your environment and change your neighborhood and change where you work and change your state. And you start to alter the history. And you start to mess with history.
Yes. Amen.
And all of a sudden, you can hear the angels tearing up documents that are no longer valid. They're void because you voided them, because you acted according to the Spirit of God. And no longer is anything going to be able to operate because you decided that you were going to get up in the Holy Spirit's realm, which is the real realm, and operate in the kingdom and operate according to authority and start speaking what heaven's speaking. And then all of a sudden it starts to shift, just like it's doing in this room right now. Now, I'm a flight attendant that speaks in tongues. I could fly the airplane I was on. But the Lord told me to be a flight attendant. So in my back pocket, I just handed it to my wife. I carry my commercial pilot's license all over the place. I don't get to use it. I get to serve drinks and apologize for the weather for 29 years. And God can do what he wants. So when Paul came to them, he didn't come with man's wisdom. He came with power and demonstration of the Holy Ghost. Because he understood, based on the fact that he wasn't all he thought he was. And so this is what he does. Now, can you believe Paul does this? He introduces himself to the churches and he says, I'm Paul the Apostle. I was predestined to be an apostle from birth.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, I've seen your rap sheet. You're in every post office. Okay, do you understand? But see, Paul got over himself, and that's what you first need to do with holy fire. You got to get over yourself, because there's going to be a bonfire tonight. And in Ephesus, when Paul got there, you should see the revival that broke out in Ephesus. They were steeped in witchcraft. So it says in the book of Acts that they when they were repenting, I used that word, because it's still valid today. So I'm calling you all to repentance because God's so good. God's so good, and all of a sudden it leads you to repentance, Paul said. So you're being led to repentance because of goodness of God in your life causes you to turn. There's a shift that goes on. And the Word of God is always active. It's always living. It's always changing and correcting. And God loves those he disciplines. He's just treating you as a son and a daughter. And so it's interesting to me how we think we want certain things, but then when we get the holy fire, there's this big poof, and then there's nothing left. The only thing that's left is what you did out of obedience by the Word of God. So anything like the builders who build unless the Lord builds a house, you're building in vain. Do you know that that's still true? Don't let that blank page between the New Testament and the Old Testament fool you. Jesus is just a fulfillment of the Old Testament. But not one little jot or tittle is going to disappear. Oh, come on, please. Even the book of Malachi, there's Italian. I'm so drunk right now. You have to receive the Word of God. You have to receive tonight. But there might be a big poof. The fire might get rid of the wood, hay, and stubble. And you might have a couple gold bars and some silver, and precious metals and stuff. But that's okay. Because, see, what happens to you is that you fall on the rock unless the rock fall on you. You judge yourself lest you be judged. You get it right on the way to court. You kiss the Son lest he be angry. Do I need to keep quoting scriptures here? But see, you have to get it right with God. The reason why is that Paul got it right with God, and then he acted as though he had done nothing wrong. He even said it, I've wronged no one. And I'm thinking, my God. Am I right? Do you understand the revelation that Paul had was like what you have when the Holy Spirit comes into your life, and he really shows you what you believe and why you believe it. See, I want to know why I believe what I believe. Because I want to know the implications that are in the spirit realm, not just in his physical realm. So, I might throw my costume, my $5 costume might get thrown away. But I have a body that is beautifully made and intricately made. I look like God. I'm sorry. Because I was made in his image. And, listen to this. They couldn't kill man. When he fell in the garden, they cast him out, the Trinity. I say they because you got to start thinking Amen. They. Okay, so you see man outside the garden, they're not allowed back in. They're not allowed to eat of the tree of life. Okay, so they can't live forever now. I'm feeling sober again, so I'm going to stand up. I need another drink here. Okay, so here, think of this. It took 930 years to kill Adam. In sin. That's how beautifully and wonderfully we're made. Wow. The image of God. Sin couldn't even kill. Oh. Amen. Okay, so the spiritual side of you is so amazing that you need to get over yourself really quickly tonight, okay? Right away, just get over yourself. Paul got over himself, but this is why he did, because he got caught up. And he saw things he can't talk about. But the things he did, oh man, can you imagine what he tells us in the Ephesians and Colossians?
Yes.
And how those Ephesians, when they repented, they just poured all of their witchcraft books in a big pile, and they had a bonfire.
Praise God.
And they built a fire and burnt those curse books.
Yeah.
And the tarot cards and all the junk of the enemy.
Amen.
That night.
Praise
And they never went back. And so if you read Ephesians, you got to understand why I'm telling you this. See, you got to see what I saw on the other side. There's a reason why Ephesians is so important, because when he wrote that letter, he was writing to people that understood the spirit realm. Oh,
Amen. Amen.
he was giving them a little bit more. How many know what I'm talking about? How many know what I'm talking about? I mean, there is spiritual warfare in there. Chapter 6 is amazing. The only prayer I pray. I haven't prayed for myself in over 10 years. I don't pray for myself, because Project Matthew 6:33 is in effect. I have a memo, and it doesn't expire. Matthew 6:33 is in effect.
Amen.
I seek the kingdom, and all these things are given to me.
Amen.
And Amazon brings it to my door. I haven't had the drone do it yet, but I mean, I'm waiting for it. I'm tempted to knock it out of the air and see if the Amazon police come. No, in Seattle, when we lived up there, they had 3-hour delivery for Amazon. And so I just clicked it. I just dared them to deliver it to me. My friend Nick was visiting us, and he's a minister. He said, "Man, I forgot my shampoo," and he said it's a special shampoo. And he's like, oh, he's all upset. And I'm like, "Man, are you a girl?" He goes, "What's a special?" And then he's laughing at me because I don't care what kind of shampoo I need. I don't even know. So I go, "Okay, well, what kind?" And so while he's talking about, he's emotionally attached to this, I'm just going like this, and I go, "There it is, 3-hour delivery." He goes, "Okay, it's ordered." He goes, "Yeah, but what am I going to do for the next couple of days?" I said, "It'll be 3 hours." At 2 hours, there was a knock at the door, and that box dropped.
Wow.
And he looked at me, and he thought I thought I was working a miracle, but no. So the spirit realm is really quick, and there's things available to you that you just don't know about. But see, in Ephesians, the only prayer that I pray is Ephesians chapter 1, verses 17 through 23.
Amen.
That's the only prayer I pray. Now, if I pray that, I don't know, I'll just tell you a secret. I get everything.
Yeah. Amen.
Because not only do I know him, I'm known by him.
Right. Amen.
You should read the prayer. I kind of read it this morning and last night, and I might just say it again. But see, the thing is, I live in that prayer because the Lord told me that if you want to walk in the Spirit and the supernatural, how many want to walk in the supernatural? How many want to have miracles?
Yes.
Well, if I can do it as a flight attendant that prays in tongues, I think you can do it too.
Come on.
Amen.
And here's how you do
Bring
it.
it on.
Here's how you do it. You have to put yourself in a position where you're willing to put yourself on the line for who you believe in. And you got to know. You got to know where you belong, and that is you belong right smack in those verses that you're reading. So I'm serious. When I open to Genesis chapter 1, and I see that the Spirit of God is brooding over the waters, I put myself on a raft, and I'm laying right on that water, right underneath that's the Spirit of God, as He's brooding on the water. And when I pray the Ephesians prayers, and it says that the spirit of wisdom and revelation would be upon me, that I would know the hope to which I've been called.
Yes. Amen.
Yes.
I feel my eyes go like that and get ignited, and I'm like, oh man, I can see. And then I pray that my ears be open,
Yes.
and I picture, like Jesus told me. I'm going to give you a nugget here. Jesus told me, he said, "Kevin, if you want to walk with me," he said, if you want to see the impossible happen every day, he said, just breathe in my exhale. He said, my exhale is your next inhale. So I breathe in what he just breathed out. And what he breathed out, just his exhale, that's not even what, just that is more than enough to make me live for 1,000 years. I mean, his breath gives me life because he's the bread that came down from heaven. And you don't even have to drink his blood and eat his flesh. Like it says, you could just breathe in his air.
Yes.
And it'll change you.
Yes.
So you have to place yourself, every time you see something in the Word of God, you got to place yourself there. Daniel, it happened by accident with him. I'm sorry to say. Maybe that's why he's a minor prophet. No, I love Daniel, and he's a nice guy. Don't, please. Sorry, Daniel. Daniel, I mean, can you imagine this? If you're taken, and Russians come in and they take you back. They take you to Russia. Yeah, I mean, they just grab you and they export you out. And you spend 70 years. That's what happened to Daniel and his people. They just came in. They came in and just ransacked Jerusalem, took them to Babylon. And then in the city of Babylon was about 150 miles south of Baghdad. Abraham was an Iraqi. He lived right above Kuwait in the Ur of the Chaldees. And it just makes me laugh to see them all fighting each other. And Abraham was an Iraqi.
Come on.
And God just appears to him and says, I'm going to make you a nation. He goes, okay. So then he goes, and he's looking for a city whose builder and maker is God. And he leaves and he doesn't know where he's going. And he can't even tell his relatives what's going on. He said, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going. And that was fine, see? Well, look how great Abraham became. Okay, so there's so many ways I can go with this. I've opened a lot of packages here for you. But see, the thing that you have to understand is that you can't be the same. You cannot be the same after he appears to you. You cannot be the same if he visits you. You cannot be the same under the worship tonight. You can't be the same. You can't be the same after I'm done talking to you.
That's right.
You can't. It's impossible. But see, what I'm trying to tell you is when I met him, he was worth dying for. Okay, so, I don't like guys, but he was the best looking man I've ever seen in my life. Jesus was the best looking. I mean, I didn't have to breathe there because I was not in my body. But you know how you have to tell yourself to breathe when you see someone that's they just take your breath away. And my wife, when I met her, I said, I would die for you. She had that effect on me on our first date.
Yeah.
I said, I would die for you. And we're both crying. And we were married 4 months later, and we've been married 25 years. But Jesus has that effect on you. You're looking at him and you're like, and I told him, I didn't speak very much to him because he just kept talking. And so I figured, he knows more than I do. So just let it roll, But this is when I looked at him, I thought, that is the best looking man I've ever seen. He's the best looking, and you got to understand, he looks like a man, he's God, but he looks like a man because, I don't know if you know this, but he actually kept his body. He actually still has his body. It doesn't have any blood in it. Because the blood is right before the Father on the mercy seat. But he still looks like a man, but he is completely restored back to his original self. And I don't have enough vocabulary in this language to tell you this, but he was perfect. And the only thing I said to him that I remember saying at that point for that 10 minutes, that part of it was 45 minutes, but it seemed like a week. But I said to him, you're nothing like what people have portrayed you as. And I said, you're the most understand person on the earth. That's the two things I said to him. But then he said, well, I want to show you what you look like. And he showed me my resurrection body. He transformed me into what he did so I can see it, because I was robed. I was just out of my body, and my body was on the operating table, and I was robed in righteousness, and I was a spirit being. It was just me without that costume.
Oh.
And all the funkiness in my mind was left with the body too. The only thing I had was anything in me that was my mind, will, and emotions that was completely redeemed by being transformed by the renewing of my mind. So I had my mind, but I didn't misspeak. I did not, I wasn't going to say something wrong to Jesus.
Right.
I knew that he needed to talk and not me. I knew it was about him and not me. I knew that anything he said, it would be done. There were angels around that were just waiting to do what he said.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to put in their suggestion or say, well, Lord, you tried that yesterday and it didn't work. No, nothing like that. Whatever he says goes, and they don't try anything there. You can't even use that word in heaven. It's no try. No trial. You can't do it. So anyway, he said, look, and I looked, and I had to turn away. Because I was beautiful, and I said, I am beautiful. It wasn't pride, but I was better looking than anybody.
Wow.
I looked and I said, and he said see, I saw that was the original intent of God before the fall, and that I got that back because of the person who was standing before me, Jesus, that he bought me back.
Wow.
Okay, but you understand it. My point is that in our original form, you couldn't kill us. And even after we didn't eat from the tree of life anymore, we weren't in the presence of God, we left the presence of God. It took, between 500 and 1,000 years to kill us in sin. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then, think of this. Cain is messing up. So God comes down and actually tells him, don't you know that if you do right, you'll be accepted? He said, sin is crouching at the door, but you must master it. It desires to have you. Because see, there had to be a sacrifice. And his brother was the keeper of the flock. And so the earth was cursed. Now, the fruit of the earth was cursed. And so his offering was not the proper offering for what was being asked at this time.
Right.
Just take my word for it, okay? Don't expect.
Okay.
And by the way, most angels don't have wings. I don't know, who said that? The angels, they don't need wings to fly. Did you know that? Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and sweep under the bed right now. The angels that have wings are seraphim and cherubim.
Right. That's right.
I just did that on purpose, but that's absolutely true. Did you know that Satan is not an archangel? Everybody says he's an archangel, even the people that I respect up there, but it never says he's an archangel. It says he's a cherubim. A cherub that covers.
Right.
Okay, so he's different, a different class. The angels that have come to me, they've flown faster than wings could even carry you.
Wow.
In fact, no, I'm not going to go there.
Come on.
If you saw who's behind me right now, you'd listen to me. And he doesn't have wings, he's on fire. And he's my messenger angel. He comes with me every time I speak.
Jesus.
He lights me up, he's right behind me right now. So what you're feeling is him, it's not me, I'm not really all that.
Hallelujah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Come on.
So, the Spirit of the Lord wants to take you to deeper things, but see, you have to be willing to die for what you believe in, and you have to be willing to be tested by fire. You have to be willing to submit everything you do to the fire. Would you be willing to do that? Like, could you submit yourself to the truth meter?
There you go.
We used to joke at work, we used to joke about certain things. I won't say it because this is going on Facebook Live, but that's what I don't like about Facebook Live. I can't even talk about anything because... But we used to say, when certain people were talking at work, we just say, well, the lie meter's pegged right now. You say you want the truth, but then once you get the truth, then it has to judge you. So then you find yourself having to judge yourself, or you're going to be judged.
Right.
Because either one's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to get out of it. Everything, we have to submit ourselves to the one who sees us and knows everything about us. And so this is what I wanted to talk to you about. I'm not telling you all this because we can't handle a lot of what the truth is. You think you can, but I never ask. Are you hearing me now? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? I'm telling you right now, you don't want to see an angel.
Yeah.
And most people have not seen angels that say they've seen angels. Because when an angel comes, you're going to wish you never asked for it. Because where they come from and how they live, I mean, they're called holy angels for a reason. And your flesh can't take their normal. I'm telling you the honest truth. Do you want me to give you an example? Do you mind if I go to story time? Now, I'm not trying to make myself, do you understand this? I'm Kevin, the flight attendant that came from heaven that speaks in tongues. I'm not an apostle, prophet, pastor, teacher, evangelist. I'm not claiming to be the fivefold, even though I am. But I'm not coming to you as that. I'm coming to you as a person who is a believing believer, who was transformed in the presence of Jesus because I saw how much he loved me. And the goodness of God caused me to repent, and I decided I could die for Jesus. That what I believed in was worth it, was worth death.
Yes.
Now all those apostles, they drank from that cup, and then they all disappeared. And I remember, there's some people like Pastor Don in this room who have graduated from this school. I remember the president of this school giving us we were ready to graduate. And he said, just remember one thing. He said, Jesus came, and all he did for 3.5 years was do what he saw the Father doing. And all he said was only what the Father was saying. And he said, and he only lasted 3.5 years. And they killed him. And he turns to us, he goes, and you won't last long either. That's what he said. If you do the same. And I said, oh, thanks a lot. That's my sending out speech. But see, do you understand what he was trying to show? And of course, he died at an old age, and everything was fine. He didn't. But the point is this. We don't have the right perception when we don't know it. So when you ask for the Holy Spirit to invade your world, and you ask for an angel to come into your world, what you're asking for is the environment of heaven, the government of heaven. Everything about God is going to come live with you. And see, Jesus said that, right? Jesus said, if you love me, and the Passion Translation said, if you passionately love me to where you actually obey me. That your passion and love for me is so strong that you actually obey me. Me and my Father will come and live with you. So getting back to Daniel. I didn't forget. Daniel accidentally found himself in the Bible. Did you know that? Daniel, like I said, he was drug away, and then he was sitting there reading the scroll of Jeremiah. Now, Jeremiah was a major prophet. And he wrote this scroll about 175 years before Daniel, and Daniel was a couple hundred years before Jesus. So Daniel's reading, and he gets to 29th chapter of Jeremiah, and it starts to go into this thing. Jeremiah is like, those prophets, they just, they're there, and they're like, okay, where are you? I don't know, but this is what I see, this is what I hear. And then when God asks, Son of man, what do you see? And he goes, I don't know, but you know, Lord. Right? The good prophets would say that. They say, I don't know, but you know. What do you see? And he tells them, you prophesy to these bones, and you do this and you do that. Okay, right? Okay, so Daniel has none of that. He's reading, and he says that he's in, just like you all. Right now, the devil has you chained up. He's beating you up, and he's lying to you. And then God sent me to tell you the truth. Right now, you're going to be set free. Every one of you. I'm going to be set free. I need God. I need a touch all the time. I'm so drunk right now that I'll take more. Not always take an extra gallon of that stuff. I don't know what it is, but I want it. My wife knows. I was on the floor. God was touching me so strongly. I said, Lord, I can't take it anymore. Don't stop. Because you get it. You see, you can be addicted to the right things. But I'm addicted to his presence. I'm addicted to what he's going to say to me. I'm addicted to what he sees in me that I don't see. I hear what the devil thinks of me all day. But there's a turnaround coming. Okay, so Daniel saw wait a minute. He goes in 29, it says that after the 70 years, you will call out to me. 70 years of captivity, you will call out to me, and I will actually answer you, and I will take you back to your land. Because I have plans to prosper you in a good end. So you know Jeremiah 29:11,
Yes,
and you don't know Jeremiah 1
amen.
through 10. Just like you know Malachi 3:10, but you don't know Malachi 11 through 16 and then on to 25, which talks about when we speak well about the Lord, that a book of remembrance was written about you, that you spoke well of the Lord and you acknowledged him. A book of remembrance was, yeah, you missed that. Okay, so Daniel's like, whoa, wait a minute, this is us. And, are you ready for this? It's been 70.5 years. We're overdue.
Wow.
So what he does is he sets himself to seek the Lord. And you know the rest of the story. But see, you didn't know the inside story. But see, that's what Paul did when he came back. And that's what happened to me. When I came back, I had the inside scoop on what Jesus really did for me. And so it went from the Gospels, which is a record of what Jesus said and did, to the in him, to being in him and being loved and known by him. And so I saw what I looked like, and I saw God's original intent. And then I realized that when I met Jesus, he was worth dying for. That he was worth that. He was the king of the universe. Now, you have to understand that the person who was talking to me, he's the one that breathed out the universes. The worlds were framed by his word. Nothing that was made that you see, it was nothing that wasn't made except through him. I'm quoting Bible. Yeah, I'm bringing the Bible into this. So you have to realize that when Jesus says something, he's not kidding. He can't kid. Okay, but you don't understand that. Well, you say Jesus is funny and he jokes around. It's like, I know people say that, they've been to heaven and say that. It's not true. I will challenge these people to their face. They're selling books and they have not met the king that I met. Jesus has to watch his words because he gets everything he says. He's not joking.
Amen.
And I'm telling you what, there's a wake-up call for most people, because when I met him, I mean, he's totally in command. And he's totally spoken over you. He sings over you songs of deliverance. He's spoken on your behalf. He's already planned your life for you. And most people don't acknowledge his authority and what he's done, and so they don't even have their pages of their book opened. There's people in hell right now that have beautiful books in heaven written about them, and they will never encounter that. No one was supposed to go to hell. Jesus said that hell was made for the devil and his angels. Okay, so no one is to go there. All right, so when I was there, Jesus said, listen, we want a family up here. Everybody has a book written because we never designed anyone to go to hell. And so you go back and you reconcile. You tell people that they're reconciled. You announce that they're reconciled, that the price has been paid, the gospel's free. And you can come in.
Yes.
You don't have to pay a thing because God has already paid the price for you. And that's what you do. You compel people. I'm just quoting for 2 Corinthians chapter 5. It says that we have a ministry of reconciliation, that we should go out and compel people to come in, announcing that their sins are forgiven.
Yes.
Can you imagine that?
Yes. Praise
Okay,
God.
that's the gospel.
Yes.
That's good news.
Yes.
You know, why would I be better looking than Jesus? People say, well, he's all beat up, you can't even recognize him. It's like, no. I mean, he appeared in several different forms to different people. I just talked to the people on the Emmaus Road. Talked to the people that he appeared and ate with them and then walked through a wall. That's after he ate a fish dinner. How do you explain that?
Miracle.
But see, he didn't have all that on him.
Right.
He was completely restored back.
Right. Yes, amen.
That's the way it was. Okay. Oh boy. Okay.
It's good.
So the process of you coming to the truth is not always fun, but it's good for you. You need to take your medicine. You need to know the truth, even if it hurts.
Amen.
The reason why is that it's better to get it right now and not be robbed of what you have in store for you in this life. And that's what I was robbed. Did you know I was operating at 35%? I was operating at 35%, and I told the Lord, I said, if I would have known, this is what I said, I was that stupid. If I would have known, I would have done so much more. I would have done so much better. And I'm thinking, I had the red letters. I mean, he was exactly like the red letters. I don't know what you're expecting. He's the same sharp sword that he was in the book of Revelation when he comes back with that sword in his mouth.
Right.
And he's faithful. He's not, it's not his we call him all these things. Jesus is so faithful. No, that's his name. His name is faithful and true. I mean, he handed me a stone, and it was a white stone, and it had my new name on it. And I came back from the future, and I got to stand up here and play like I don't know what's going on. But this is all rigged. Did you know that? Did you know it's all rigged? I'm talking to you now, and the whole thing is set up. I already know where I'm going, what I'm going to do, and what's going to happen. And nobody even gets it. They think, that's such a nice boy. And they don't know it. Like, I've already went through the whole play. I'm just doing a replay. And I know the next scenes, and the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. And I'm doing this as a believer who speaks in tongues.
Wow.
Not as any of the big boys.
Amen.
To be a big boy, the greatest honor is to get thrown in jail and then get beheaded. But see, you can't even talk about that. But there are people right now screaming at the throne.
Come on.
You should open the book of Revelation and see this. They said, when are you going to give us vengeance? Because they were beheaded. And I was told in college, I paid all this money to get my degree in theology. And they told me, well, that's an allegory because, with all this technology now, Christians are not going to be beheaded. And then Islam popped up.
Come on. There it is.
And I wonder what they're thinking now.
Yeah.
Is it an allegory? When we talked to those Christians that got beheaded, was that an allegory that struck them on the back of the head?
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry. I'm not belittling it. But what I'm saying is, I have to be willing to lose my head for who I believe in.
Come on.
I mean,
Come
on.
That's bad.
See, you've lost your edge and you don't know it. A lot of you need to repent. I repent every day. Jesse Duplantis, my father, repents every day. He goes, God, he said, by the way, God's still holy too. He hasn't changed.
Amen. Amen.
He's a holy God. He's got holy angels, Holy Spirit. You notice that word holy? It's always got to be holy. The seraphim, you tell him that God's no longer holy. The seraphim cry above him. They got 6 wings. They're above him. They're huge, and they're screaming, holy, holy, holy. They've been doing it for a really long time. You can actually just take the first 30 seconds and loop it. And you don't have to buy the whole album. But do you understand what I'm saying? We painted Jesus to be a certain way. And then when he appears as the red letters in the Bible, we're all shocked. But there is so much joy in heaven that grown men, one guy who had just come in, he skipped by me through paradise, waving to everybody, like a girl who's skipping like a girl. And he didn't even care. And he didn't even care that everything was burned up, but he made it in. He didn't even care. I'm serious, he skipped right by me, he's waving, and he's looking for other people, trying to get a wave at them. And Jesus is down there by the river of life, and he's playing with kids that had died early. They went straight to heaven, so he's playing with them. And he just said, I'm going to play with them, so I just kept walking. And this guy, I looked, and this guy comes. I'm like, what is... And here he comes, just skipping and waving at me. And he's waving like he's in a parade, You see, that's how you feel all the time. You don't care. So, you have to creep up here and hope, is this on Facebook Live? Because I'm going to dance a little bit. Maybe if I hit in this group of people here, your angels, they'll be face flat. And they'll be looking up at you. You might want to get down here, like that. The angels will fall face flat. They know what to do before the throne. And they're looking up like, you might want to go ahead and come down here with us right now because you're about to get hit, you know. And, but getting so Daniel sees himself and he fasts and prays, and it's all rigged because it was written 175 years before he read it, and it was the only reason it was late is because God. I'm just telling you what I learned at the throne. Anybody interested?
Yeah.
Okay, so God speaks it out. And he can't do anything except he go through his prophets because they have authority in the earth. They're fivefold ministry. Even the Old Testament, they were all that.
Yeah.
And if they didn't like you, you were dodging lightning bolts, and had to go to them and say, "Okay, I'm sorry. Can you make it rain? I'm sorry I offended you." You know, and like we don't have any of that today. Like we don't have that fear of the Lord like they walked in. You didn't offend those people. But of course, if you were wrong, you got stoned.
Yeah.
And that would pretty much kill every prophet we have today. If we went by the law.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why when I only prophesy very few times, and I know I'm right.
Yeah.
I've told people no one came up. I said, here's your name. I'm coming out for you. I know where you're at right now, and you're looking away from me right now. And they still didn't come up. And then they left. 3 months later, I get an email. That was me.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
And you know what I said? I said, are you ready for this? 40 years ago, you were in an intersection, and you got T-boned. And you haven't forgiven God for that. 40 years ago.
Oh.
And you have an injury in your back. The Lord wants to tell you that I was not in that crash. Come up here and he'll heal you. Call her name. No one comes up. She writes me, she said, my sister was in the passenger side and she died. I can go on and on and on. So, see, when you're flowing in the Spirit, things are going to happen. But you know that you know that you know.
Right.
But if you don't know, it's better not to go.
Amen.
Or go slow. Or don't show. Because I don't want to dodge rocks. I was just in Ottawa, and I was telling a story. Because I'm being flown right now in the Spirit because I'm getting into that vein. But I want to finish Daniel. Daniel was able to see that it was overdue. But see, because God had spoken that he was going to call out, and then I was going to answer. That's what it says in the part you don't know because you memorized 29:11, and you missed the first 10 verses, which are very important, as you can see now. Daniel found himself in the Bible, and that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Once he did, he saw it was rigged, so it was overdue. So he started praying, and bam, the angels start coming. But it took 21 days. So then we find out there's warfare. That you all know that, right? Because you live it. You live it every day. Okay. So when they come, he finds out, hey, here's how the spirit realm works. And I found out when I was there that that's exactly how it is. And so I said, Jesus, just so you know, thanks for bringing me here, and I'm not going back. Thank you. I'm not going back to that. And I gave him the reasons why I wasn't. And it was all about that whole thing. And all there's not a demon behind every tree. There's 3. I'm serious. That's all I'm going to say about it because I can never talk about it. But what I knew was enough to say, I am never going back to my body. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Let me go on record.
Amen.
What I saw, and I understood the demonic completely, and no one writes about it. But what I understood was enough for me not to ever come back. I totally understood that I was redeemed and that I was in a war. And I saw where people are fighting things that are from the outside and they think it's them. And it wasn't. Those spirits have a way to project into you so that you feel and you think that you are something you're not. And you fight that. And it's smoke. It's smoke and mirrors.
It's good.
It really is. I mean, and then I saw where people, it happens to me a lot. He'll tell me something, and then somebody will come and say the same thing to me. And I'll just start laughing.
Yeah.
Because there's that familiar spirit.
Yeah.
So he can't get to me, so he goes to the next weakest link out for me. And he picks around my perimeter. He finds a weak link. And if he that can, then he keeps going out and out and out until he gets me. And if he doesn't get me, he just gives up. He takes his 67 microbus and he leaves. Backfiring the whole way out of town. Okay, so anyway. Okay, so we're in this stream right now. And so the prophetic stream is this. This is what happens in the prophetic. You get images. You see the future. And you think it's, see, just like you think you don't know who you are, you don't know what you are, you don't know what's going on at times, but you should know.
Amen.
So like when I get into a jet, and I start setting everything up, and I know, okay, this is this certain type of jet, this is how it works. So I know that I start the sequence of engine startup, I've got to have hot air coming from an outside source. So it's either what they call an APU, which is a small engine in a tail, or I've got to have a ground card that's going to produce hot air, pressurized air, into the engine. So I'm telling this for a reason. I'm trying to show you something. You have to have all the necessary ingredients to have fire. You have to have the ingredients to be lit up by God and be energized to pray. So, in case you didn't know it, the title of this tonight is not just the Holy Fire, but I'm talking about chapter 2, why aren't my prayers being answered? Yes. And the Lord, in that book, I wrote about the soil and about the parable of the soils. Jesus told me it's the parable of the soils, not the parable of the sower. He spends one sentence on the sower and one sentence on the seed. Because the seed does what it's told.
Exactly.
And the sower just sows.
Yes, that's good.
Okay, but he spent paragraphs on the soil, which he says is men's hearts. So he told me, he said, concentrate on people's hearts and deal with their soil and make it good soil and then sow the word. And it's going to produce a crop. And I'm going to have disciples all over the world following Jesus only. And not the Jesus only movement. I'm talking about only Jesus. Okay, so this is what happened in Ottawa. No, are you able to listen?
Yes.
Okay, because you see, when I go to light the first engine on an airplane, I have to have introduced something from the outside, which is the presence and the power of God, that not the spirit within, but the spirit upon. So like I have to teach this because prayer encompasses so many things. There's so many types of prayer. There's so many types of subjects you can talk about: the anointing, and ministry, and walking in the power of God, and encountering the resurrection power of God, and seeing and being seen, and hearing and being heard, fasting, praying, all these things. We get bombarded, and there's books on every subject, 9 of them, on each subject. But the thing is I read all those books, and there's something still missing. And so it's funny how every time, as I've been talking just at O'Hara and Midway airports, pilots who don't even have an inkling about spiritual things are continuing to start engines up and take off. Because they're told what to do. And it's amazing when they do what they're told, it works.
Yeah.
It's proven. Okay, so there's certain things that are proven.
Right.
Now, we have to have the proper ingredients to get our prayers answered. We have to have good soil. We have it. And the seed, did you know that the seed, it knows what to do? You just give it soil, and they talk to each other.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice that? I mean, they found seeds from a long time ago in clay jars, and they plant them, and they still produce whatever kind it was. It was corn or whatever. Okay, so you understand that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's my lesson. I'm excused now. Okay, so here's the thing. Once you introduce that air into the engine, you use that air to start to circulate the engine. It has to get to a certain RPM without fire. Okay, because you can't do, and even when it's cold, a cold start, it's even worse. Because the metal, when it's cold, everything's cold, it's even slower, it's even harder. Okay, so this is what you do. You get that thing spooled up, and you'll hear the turbine turning when you're sitting there being told to stow your bags and your seat belt, and the flight attendant screaming at you because you're still trying to put your belt on because TSA just undressed you, and you just want to get your shoes and your belt on. And I know, but I'm trying to get my belt on. And I know they were like, we're ready to go. It's like, okay, but it's not my fault. Okay, so you hear this, and what that is they're introducing air into that engine from the outside, that engine, and they're getting it up to where it's a percentage, it's 35%, and some of the engines it's 40. But when it starts to turn this, and you call off at the 35%, then you pull the ignition, and the fuel goes in there, and the ignition, it lights, and you have light off, and you hear this, and you can hear it every time. If you listen now, you'll hear the light off, but it's not the spooling. You'll hear spooling, you hear like a turbine. That's not the engine burning. You see, you have to get spooled up. So what I'm telling you is I know this because I was on the other side. You have to have the Word of God in front of you. So I never pray unless I have the Bible open. I never pray. Because what? It's rigged. If I pray the Bible, I got it.
Amen. Yes, amen.
Jesus, amen.
And you need healing, but see, Jesus never made anybody sick, and he went around doing the will of the Father.
Right.
So I never found anywhere where he made somebody sick because he was having a bad day or anything. He did, and then nobody came to him and said, "Can you make me sick? I'd like to withdraw from my pension, and I'd like to have my health care. My health care, I don't even." No, nobody does that. Come on. Okay, so Jesus went around doing good and healing everyone that was oppressed by the devil. So now, just that verse alone identifies who's doing it.
Right.
Okay, so then he says, the thief comes to steal and kill and destroy, but I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just up in there with God. I'm sitting with him at his table, and he's feeding me, and he's honoring me in the presence of my enemies. I'm quoting chapter 23 of Psalms, by the way. Yes, I'm still quoting the Bible. Because David said, listen, the Lord is going to honor me in the presence of my enemy. He has made a table.
Yes.
And he's honoring me, and all these beautiful things are there for me to eat: healing and deliverance, and prosperity. Oh yeah, I just said that in church.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And righteousness and justice and holiness. And I'm just taking bowls of this and that, and I'm like, man. And then there's the deeper works. Yeah, there's deeper things than that. But see, you haven't even got over your sins of your past yet.
Come on.
You're still like drinking milk in heaven. You're just a baby. See, because haven't got over your past sins. They're expunged.
Right.
When I looked in the eyes of Jesus, I couldn't make a mistake. He was right here. For 45 minutes, I was within 3 feet of him at all times. I couldn't make a mistake. I looked into his eyes. He talked to me as though I'd never sinned. And so I thought about it. I go, he's talking about because I looked down and I had all these stripes, like I told you this morning. I had stripes on and I had this beautiful ambassador's robe on, and I had all this rank. And he told me I wasn't down here surviving. I was down here qualifying for my next position in the next rule and reign. So you're qualifying down here. You're on probation right now. You're in training. You're ruling and reigning with him in this life as kings. That's actually in the Bible too. And even the best scholars can't take it out. They convert it to different languages and it still comes out the same. Okay? All right, so you have light off, and then it spills up into the 50 and 60%. And it's amazing to me. Then you take that hot air from that engine and you transfer it over to the engine 2, and you start engine 2, or vice versa. Some companies want you to start 2 first because they're still loading bags. It doesn't matter to you, but one is over where they're loading bags. You don't want to do that because then the rampers are, they're kind of upset by that because they're getting sucked into the engine. Okay, so and the $12 an hour they're getting is not worth it all of a sudden. Okay, so this is what's amazing is if you do everything right, you have to ride the brakes to the runway because those 2 engines are producing thrust that's more than the 130,000 pounds that jet weighs.
Good work.
It's like you have to ride the brakes. And I'm not kidding you. If you don't have your brakes on, you're gonna go forward. And that's at idle.
Come on.
That's what the throttle's the whole way back. And there's more than enough thrust. It's made so that those engines can take off and fly with one engine. And fly you the whole way to Hawaii on one engine.
Wow.
That's the way they're made. Okay, so I tell you this because when I want to tell you these stories because I feel like I need to. I don't always do this, but you get into this flow with prophetic. And what happened was in Ottawa last week, the Lord told me to tell a story that happened in Natchez, Mississippi, a year ago. So Natchez, Mississippi, I'm in there and I'm speaking for 4 days. And Saturday night, because I like right now, you each have a rock in your hand. So when I prophesy to somebody, I literally see rocks in your hand that if I miss it, I could die because I have the fear of the Lord. I have to do that because I'm not here to impress you. You don't understand what I just said. In the Old Testament, you were stoned if you missed it. And I consider it, I'm not going to reroute somebody's life and tell them to marry somebody.
Come on.
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Just because I want you to think I'm a prophet. In the Old Testament, you were a dead prophet. I'd rather be a servant of God alive than a dead prophet. A wrong dead prophet. So, I didn't do it because, you see, I didn't have ignition. You see, I had the hot air going in there. I'm spooled up, but I didn't have the ignition. You see, so you want all your prayers answered, but you need to sense what the Spirit of God's doing. Because He wants you to operate in His realm, and guess what? It's His rules. You don't get into a jet. I'd like to see you get into an F-18 right now and take the place of one of the guys for the Blue Angels. And you're all that, and you're like, I can do this. And you get in there, and it's like, where's the keys? It doesn't have keys. There's 55 different things you have to do to get the engine started. And you better start with calling the tower first. And then you might want to tell the guys to get away from the air intakes. And then in about 10 minutes, you got one engine started, you're starting the second one. And you're just still looking for the keys. And you're looking for a place to put your luggage. And this plane wasn't built for your luggage. See, so it has a purpose, and you don't understand. See, you don't understand. You got to understand what you're called to do. You got to understand who you are, and you got to operate within that realm. You don't get out of your track. You don't get into someone else's office.
That's good.
So when you pray, it's a sacred time because you're changing history. When I pray, I'm changing history. I'm canceling all those prophecy teachers that said that, like I told you this morning, every one of them, they had to write other books because I changed it because I delayed it. Because Jesus appeared to me and said, delay it. I'm like, you might want to tell so-and-so and so-and-so because the next Shemitah's coming. And their book's already going to press. Well, then it didn't happen. And I told you, I wrote a book called Days of Heaven on Earth that came out when the world was going to end in September that year, the Shemitah. And he told me to write that book and became a #1 new release on Amazon. Because the boy stewardess was right. Not a prophet, a stewardess, boy stewardess. Flight attendant now. So flight attendant speaks in tongues, writes a book, he gets #1 new release. And I watched water crawl up the wall that year. I told you I made $255,000 in the markets because everybody bailed. And I told you I knew about the market crashes for 2001 and 2008. But then this one in 15, it's not going to happen. So in that September Shemitah, my book came out, and we were literally pulled it out of the box to review it before we called the publisher and said, run it to press. Because I needed it in a week, if you remember my story this morning, for a conference that I was in. And the conference was already named that. So as we're looking at that book, me and my wife went out in the driveway, and she's right here to verify this, and that last blood moon, the 4th, and John Hagee had already told us tomorrow's it, man, and NASA can confirm it. The earth is going to end tomorrow. And the markets are going to crash. And all the other people that wrote books. And I'm looking at that blood moon, and I'm looking at this book that says Days of Heaven on Earth, which sounds pretty good, I mean, does it take a flight attendant that speaks in tongues coming from that back from the dead to shift